Hi, Ruth. How are you?
Hi, Lee. And you?
Good, good.
How's your son?
He's going to be a senior this year. So graduating in the spring, going to Maine Maritime. He already made his decision. So exciting,
Good for him.
exciting time.
Yes. Tim, you cut your beard.
Yes,
I like it.
thank you.
We can't see you.
Yeah, I'm coming back. Hold on. Having a little problem here.
Are you away, Tim, still, or are you in town? I like it, Tim.
Thanks. Can you see me now?
See you fine.
Good. I got tired of it one day and there it went. How's everything?
Things, I mean, my son does the same thing. He never lets it, he gets it be about your look right now. And then I can hear it. I can, if he stays with me in the summer, I can hear the clippers going, you know.
Yeah. That's what I did. I made a mess of it too, so. Ugh.
Hi, Felicia.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
So when you're ready, Laura and I would just love to meet with you about the 400. Just,
All right.
just so that you know what's happening and get you on board. And we're also, I'm going to ask you to go to our website. It's gloucesterma400.org and look at the partnership tab because you should be a partner.
Okay.
Hi, this is Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
It's cold. What's
Yeah,
it?
it is cold.
What's the degrees right now? It's supposed to be 60 Thursday, right?
I can't wait.
Oh, it's 26 in Gloucester, but it was 16 this morning, I think.
Yeah, it was like really cold last night.
Oh, yeah. I'm up in Maine. It was like 2 when I got up this morning.
Wow.
Did you go skiing though, I assume?
I did.
Yeah.
It was cold. We had to stop every hour or so.
Yeah, it's been a tough winter. Real cold.
This week has been awesome though, since a week ago Sunday. Even
Good
before.
snow up there?
Yeah, they got a ton of snow. Then it rained a little bit. It didn't hurt it too bad, but everything firmed right up. So, but I think this week, Thursday, Friday, they're supposed to get some rain up here. It's going to be warm up here too. That's not good. And it's school vacation next week for all the kids coming up here.
All this talk, I'm gonna throw some wood in the wood stove before the meeting.
He's so rustic. Hi, Felicia. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing okay.
Good.
Sounds like there's a big number this year. We need to drum up.
Yeah, that's the number we had.
I think it's 40, you told me, or didn't you?
Yeah, that's the number that we put together when we submitted the original proposal. So I figured that's what we'll go ahead and aim for. They are not doing another round of funding this year through the workforce grant. So pretty much whatever we can come up with will help offset the cost that Kate is going to incur.
Do you have any idea why they've discontinued funding for this year?
I don't. They did not provide an explanation on that. They just have not, they're not funding the workforce programs this year.
Wait, and who is they then? That would be,
That'd be MassDOT,
not,
yeah.
All right, we ready to get started? Do we have a 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, we've got a quorum. So what am I supposed to read here? This was a remote meeting. This meeting of the Gloucester EDIC is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the opening meeting law and banning gatherings of more than 10 people. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or device, there is a raise hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. I will attempt to track that for any other participants. Please use either of these options during oral communications to be recognized to speak. So with that, I don't even remember, do we have to have a motion to start the meeting? But
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Hi, Jerry.
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, so you've got the agenda in front of you that Lee and the minutes that Lee passed around. Hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes. Anybody have any comments, corrections, etc.? So can I have a motion to approve the January 18th, 2022 meeting minutes?
motion to approve?
Second,
Second. All in favor, just raise your hand.
All right,
All right, thank you. Organizational issues, so search for a new council. So I'm happy to report the following. So based on everybody's suggestions, we put together a little request for information for an attorney and what the roles and responsibility, what we were looking for. And I've sort of used as a subcommittee, Ruth and Mike, to both sort of approve what we sent out, as well as then approval on approach, which was that rather than sort of send it around to everybody, law firms in Gloucester or Cape Ann to see who might be interested, we got a recommendation from a couple of people, including Ruth, of a young attorney that works out of Cape Ann Law Practice Court, Adria Pratt, who's a Gloucester resident, and she's been practicing Cape Ann Law since 2017. And as I said, she's a Suffolk University graduate, had worked for 6 years before that with Bob Visnick as a legal assistant. Wrote a nice cover letter expressing her desire to, play a role in the economic development policies and activities in the city of Gloucester, as a resident. And so really I sent it to her to see if she was interested. She is. Any questions about, I don't know if anybody else knows Adria or Ruth, whether you want to say anything. I know you've had some interactions with her and have been impressed.
yes, I first met Adria when she worked, and she's still in the same office, but she was a paralegal for Bob Visnick, and I was in there a lot and interacted with her a lot. And she went to law school. She lives in Gloucester, and she's that next generation of attorneys who are working all on Cape Ann. She's a former member of the Gloucester Board of Appeals, so she has some really good insights into how Gloucester works. And I think she'd be an asset to us.
So what I thought was, and she agreed to a discounted rate to help support us of $225, which is about a 25% discount from her normal billing rate, which I think is pretty standard on Cape Ann for a young attorney. So I guess I would like a motion to, and we're simply engaging her for, as a consultant, as a lawyer, under apparently, I talked to the purchasing agent of Gloucester. Under the laws, there is not a requirement to send out an RFP or do anything else as it relates to lawyers. So anyways, I'd like a motion to accept her as our next counsel to replace John Cunningham.
So
Maybe, should we meet her as a board?
If you would, can I have a second? For
I think
that?
Jerry wants to meet her before we do this.
No, I do, but I think the normal order is to second the motion and then ask for any questions. So that's what I was just trying to pretend like I know the rules of order. And
Well, yeah, I guess I just wonder if we're not putting the cart before the horse, that's fine.
if you would like to meet her, I'd be happy to. I'm sure she would be happy to arrange that and ask her to. There's no pressing legal matters at the moment, and asked her for her to come to the next board meeting and introduce herself and have an opportunity to ask her a few questions.
I think that'd be perfect.
Gary, do you want that to be at a board meeting, or do you want to have the that interaction with her, just offline, or
I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other about that, except that I think if people care, the whole board ought to have the opportunity to meet her, since we're going to be depending on her probably for a long, long time.
Well, may I just suggest that you'll get to meet her no matter what. What I'm
Well,
wondering
yes.
is, are you asking that to meet her before the vote is taken?
Yes.
Well, what I would suggest is, because as I said, there's no mad rush. There's no transactional issues in front of us right now where we really need counsel. Is just to ask her to come to our next meeting, and we can meet at that time. Because otherwise, if everybody would like to meet her, then we start to have open meeting law issues. So I'll just invite her to the next meeting, and then we'll go from there. I can't imagine that would be a problem for her. If it is a scheduling problem for her, then we'll make some alternative arrangements.
Sounds good to me.
Everybody good with that? All right. Sounds good.
So
you don't have to second anything.
No, well,
Yeah.
wasn't there a second? I think there was a second.
Okay.
But now we just tabled the vote.
Correct.
Okay.
So the next on the agenda is industrial park status, but why don't we jump ahead to CADA on demand, and just so that Felicia can further the conversation that we sort of just started, and then she can get off of this meeting. So Felicia and Mike, do you want to talk about CADA on demand?
I'm very pleased to introduce Felicia. Felicia, what's going on?
Well, the CADA on Demand continues to be a very successful program. Just over 1,200 trips this past January. So I was working on something for someone else and I added them all up, and it's been 12,000 trips since we started in April, which is really impressive. I didn't think it was going to do that at all. But it also shows the need within the community of the actual service.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. You're so true.
Yeah. And a lot of times you don't realize, if people are actually going to take that bus until you put it out. And sometimes people say, we need the service, then you put a bus out there and no one actually takes it, which is what's nice about this. People actually are using it. the goal for next year, which is going to be July 1, so it just matches CADA's fiscal year. I mean, we can start talking to people now, but I'll just put July 1, so it does line up. Is going to be a goal of 40,000. MassDOT is not funding the workforce transportation program this year. I did just send an email over to Tom Schiavone at MassDOT asking why, what the reasoning is behind that. So once I find out, I can let you guys know on that.
It just seems on the face of it as sort of amusing or that there's all this money towards infrastructure projects and funding of mass transport, and then you take away this program. Just
right. It's disappointing.
Yeah,
it's disappointing. CADA does have our CARES Act money. We have state contract assistance, which right now is not really going up. We're asking for more, but we have CARES Act money that we can use to offset the cost of the program. CADA can't stop it. Obviously, too many people are using it, so it'll just be folded into our regular budget. And when grant opportunities come up, we will apply for it. We did put in a grant request for the Addison Gilbert grant opportunity that came out. Those were due mid-January, I believe. And then there's another opportunity through MassDOT that will come out May, June. And CADA can apply for that funding as well.
So even though they're cutting funding for this, there are other opportunities through MassDOT for funding, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then Felicia, regarding the Addison Gilbert grant proposal that you made, was that targeted around some specific programs, or was it more of a general ask to, following up on some of the conversations and
when I put that one together, that was more of a general ask, showing, we do take people to and from Addison Gilbert, people to and from the grocery store, so it supports the community. But that was not, the data I included in that was not carved out as specifically as it could be for Addison Gilbert. It was more general for that request.
Okay. And that's out of their $100,000, right? So whatever
they give us, yeah. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. Should we ask Sal if he has any other ideas for funding? He's not on this. He couldn't make this meeting, but I can reach out to him. And then we had some people that were sponsoring it. We assume that they'll sponsor again. Do we widen the scope on who we're asking to sponsor it? And then what's your break even, like ridership break even on that? I mean, if we can't fund this forever and you say you can't stop it, I mean, obviously we can't have it be a burden on the rest of CADA's operations.
So Felicia, I have a question. Can you tell where the drop-offs are? Like the majority of drop-offs? I mean, do you know, like, are they taking the bus to go to work?
People are taking the bus to go to work. They're taking the bus to and from the commuter rail. They're taking it up into the industrial parks. Like they can draw circles and see where people are going. I cannot specifically say this person is going to Market Basket. I can say this person is being dropped, in this area. I don't know the purpose behind their transportation, their actual trips. We just know
it's really helpful, because I was just thinking all that data we have now about who to contact in the industrial parks would be really helpful if we had email addresses to send them an email that gave them all this data.
That's something that I'm actually working on with VIA, is trying to narrow down, here is applied materials, here are all the pickups and drop-offs, that happened at applied since service started, other areas within the industrial park, so people can tell that they're actually, it's actually being used.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be good data to share with them, to encourage them to support it financially.
Yeah. And I think asking Sal if he knows of any opportunities is good, because
I know MassDOT and transportation opportunities. I may not be aware of other grant funding, that comes through other areas in the state.
I'll shoot him an email.
Okay.
But I think, Taylor, to your point, I think the idea is we go back to existing sponsors. We also, can probably do a pretty good job. This is a great story from a PR perspective. So I think, I think we have to craft some PR just to kind of get the word out and use as the basis for our ask as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the metrics that we're seeing are very impressive. Not just the numbers, but the number of repeat riders and the adoption. So I think Felicia was saying a couple months back that, it's a high percentage of people who take their first ride and then they're back on Cato On Demand, multiple times the next month. So, that's a great trend. So I think we create a good story for that. And then we go out and drum up support. I think if we can identify those big employers, the big destinations that are people are using the service to get to, those are all angles. We also have this GMGI, Good Morning Gloucester. Joey said that he would be happy to do a podcast and also get any press out that we had, as long as we put it in the right format for him to publish. So I think we do that in a way that is kind of aligned with a whole strategy, right? A whole campaign, maybe.
Alicia, back to Taylor's point, though, I think it would be good for us to share or know, sort of what your break-even point is, and sort of as a business model. Because one of the things that I think we'll want to be clear at, especially if we go back to the same spot, I mean, we'll certainly go back to the same sponsors, but if we need to ask them for more money, are we making this, and I think it's a hybrid, but are we making this argument on a employer-employee basis, or are we making this argument on a community benefit basis? So the more data that we have to sort of understand the whole business program and then inform our messaging, I think would be really helpful.
Okay, I can put those numbers together and get that data over to you guys.
Certainly, because the challenge is there's not a lot of big employers,
right,
in Gloucester, and I know from past experience with raising money is people don't like feeling like you're going back to the same people in the same pockets for more and more money. So
okay.
This is such an interesting fundraising conversation. It's so different than from looking for funds for a nonprofit. This really helps those businesses get, it gives them a pool of employees they wouldn't have otherwise had access to. Having that data will be so helpful.
One other thing might be to get some relevant, quotes. Like, so for example, if Gorton's, they made a small sponsorship, got a logo, on the bus. I was behind one of the buses the other day, looking at the logos, applied, Addison Gilbert, if we can get some quotes from management at those different organizations that they're actually using this for recruitment, they're using it for, to fill openings, right? And get more employees, a bigger pool of potential employees.
They probably haven't even thought of doing that, Mike. And I think this will prompt them to think.
Actually, Addison Gilbert, they said straight out that was their main goal. For the initial 5,000, that it was really around recruitment and trying to get more employees to consider working there. So it's just kind of an employee benefit.
Right.
I'm not sure how effective it's been, or how many have they had any success in recruiting someone who's actually using that 4 days a week or something like that. we probably should be going back to them to see if we can get any data around that. That would probably be helpful for the story.
Okay.
And Felicia, if you, in terms of, those sort of testimonials, if you can generate those, great, but, I obviously you have the data and can generate that. If you'd like some assistance in reaching out to folks to get testimonials, I'm sure we'd be happy to carve up a few different sponsors or whatever to, and we can call to help you out rather than place the whole burden on you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, so again, and just to reiterate, and we'll need to be thinking about this, is there, to try to help CADA raise $40,000 for their, fiscal year beginning July 1st. So, it's going to take some lifting, I think, to probably hit or come as close as we can to that number. And especially to try to get a couple more corporate sponsors at probably the lower levels, but to join the fray.
So Felicia, I'm president of the Cape Ann Community Foundation, and that foundation is the fiduciary for the money for people who have a Cape Ann license plate. Who has one? Who has a Cape Ann license plate? Come on, don't tell me I'm the only one. All righty. So it's only $40 every 2 years, but that $40 comes back to that foundation. And the mission of the foundation is to give grants for economic development, which that would fit right into, promotion, and darn, I can't think of the other one. I did this earlier today and I came up with all three, but anyway, so the grants are not $10,000, $2,500, $1,500, but you might be able to, the grant will be, the application will be ready April 1st.
Okay.
And go look at our website. It's called lovecapeann.com. And for those of you who don't have a Cape Ann license plate, go to lovecapeann.com. There's a tab that says get a plate. You fill out the form, it goes right to the registry and they mail it to you and you'll have it inside of 10 days.
And everyone will look at you and they'll be like, oh, I wish I lived on Cape Ann.
Well, it's so much fun to go to a mall or a restaurant in Beverly or something and you see other Cape Ann license plates. You don't have to live on Cape Ann to have one. But anyway, Felicia, it just is a good.
An option. Okay. All right.
All right, next item, industrial park status. Thank you, Felicia.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Felicia.
Blackburn Park signage and issues. Taylor.
Slow going. So I got some rough pricing from Dean at Seaside Graphic. We're still waiting on pricing from McNiff, and he's waiting on his contractors to get back to him. I meant to send everyone out some stuff. I'll do it after the meeting. The latest signage that Lauren did, because there was a lot of opinions on the first go round, and they wanted it a much more neutral tone than her other stuff. And I think I sent it to you, Tom. I should have sent it to everyone before this meeting. I just got sidetracked.
Yeah.
So I will send that out. We have agreement from I think Anchor Seal and Happy Valley, maybe, on that they like the newest rendition.
Cometier, I think.
What's that?
Cometier.
I don't know if Cometier ever commented again. He was outspoken on the first go round, and I don't know that he got back to me on the second go round, but that's fine. We know, he should be happy now. It's more neutral. FW Web and Standard were about the same. I talked to them. They said, yes, they want to do it. And then they've been kind of radio silent since then. So I've really been waiting instead of pestering people repeatedly. I just want to wait to get McNiff's pricing on the signs, get Dean's pricing on the signs, come up with our full package. Like, this is what it's going to be per person, and then get everyone to sign off. The only, I had some notes to call. You were working with Noah, right, Tom?
I've sent multiple requests and it's been radio silent.
Yeah, and Tim, I know you were working with AMAT. I mean, it's once we have those final numbers from McNiff and then Dean, and we can really say this is what each sign's going to cost, and basically send out an invoice, then we'll get a real true response as to who wants what. And I'll
That's
make
when-
sure I send that around.
That's when we'll get some input from Applied. I keep asking them, and I don't think they really have a preference right now, but when they see a bill in front of them, they may.
Hey,
Exactly.
Tim, do we have a contact? Do we know who's the facilities person at this point?
No, there's an interim guy that I know, and but we've been reaching out through Matt Beach, who is probably going to take my old job as community affairs and go on to the board of directors for the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce. I don't think that's public knowledge, and he hasn't made a final decision yet. So, but he was leaning towards doing that.
Okay. But there is somebody interim. I ran into Tommy Parity the other day, and he was saying he wasn't sure, but that a lot of it was running through sort of corporate.
Yeah.
So,
There's a guy I know out in California, Harold. I don't know what his last name, Harold. And then, but there's a guy I know in Gloucester that we can funnel things through. But I think the best bet is going through Matt Beach. He seems to have a good handle on things.
okay, good. All right, so hopefully get pricing, and we'll bring up this issue again next month and sort of try to finalize the package and then get it out.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for the efforts.
Yeah.
Conlin Road, both sort of what's on the agenda and anything else that's happening or not happening over there.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're looking. I talked to Ed Akerley, and he said he is interested in development. And then I talked to Chris McCarthy, who we looked at as a board member, and he said he's talked to Ed before about developing that area. Ed has one person up there, one current tenant that would want to buy something, and then I looked at other parcels around there to see if we can make it a little bit bigger project. So, there's a lot to do. And I think, whether Chris joins the board or whether we work with him on just a per project basis, he said he'd volunteer his time either way. So it'll be a long process. And I don't know, if we're combining other plots of land, does Ed buy them? Are there partners or whatever? So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. There's a lot of potential up there. So it would wrap, and we can look around, or I'll send another email out with all the different parcels if you want to look at them, but you can just go to that GIS and click on them and see how they all kind of line up. And there are a bunch of them owned by the city of Gloucester. So I think there's potential. And then there's our parcel that would come toward the end of Conlin Road. It would wrap around Hiltz. And I think that's the part we've always said we need. And I do know that when we looked at Hiltz's, I think we talked about their fence being kind of pushed back onto our property, and that and that was something that John said they might kind of own it through 20 years of use. But I still think between them and Neptune's Harvest, there's still a way to cut in a road that's going to be not too steep, because going up to Akerley's now is definitely too steep for general roadway. It's a private driveway, but I think, if you click on it and I'll show it to you, and it'll be a project and a half, but it's got a lot of potential.
So one of the things that hopefully by, I guess, the end of the month, that we would have sort of a, little map and a one pager that would describe, a sense of maybe the opportunity. We've got a call scheduled with Senator Tarr to talk about this and to say whether there, are there any opportunities to find some money to do a feasibility analysis to support taking a better look at these properties and what it would entail to acquire or build them out. So there's a method to this madness here beyond just sort of exploring what ifs. So that's what we're shooting for. Not aware of any pot of money yet, but hopefully we can find something along with our representatives. And anything else? I know Sal had interacted with XP Power. Anything else going on at Condolin Road that is worthy of mention?
It's been very slow going with XP Power, so it'll get some traction, and then they'll go kind of radio silence for a few weeks, and then maybe more questions, more back and forth, but nothing specific. A lot of generalities about how to keep them there and where to put them if they want to leave. And it's, it could be, it's tricky. I think he's working to try to keep them here. But there's potential that we can't do it,
Yeah.
Can't do something quickly enough. They haven't said they're leaving. They just said they need more space. And if you ever go on their website and look, they have a lot of companies around the country. So, I kind of use the example of my building. It used to be Oxford Graphics. It was bought by a company called Resource Label, and their model was to buy up all these smaller regional printers to get that local business because people like that local feel. At the same time, they were buying up specific businesses with different technology, different capabilities. So they had a broader range. It broadened their scope both ways, regionally and capability. So if XP, and then they moved out of Gloucester, moved to Peabody because they wanted to combine a couple places and have that workforce all closer. So, XP hasn't said that, but we want to make sure that doesn't happen without our knowledge. So, but Sal's on that one. They're a hard nut to crack, so I don't think we all want to go after them and start asking a lot. I think they'll talk to us when they want to talk to us. So.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Yep.
So next thing, Life Science Initiative. I'm trying to remember at the last meeting, but anyway, so GMGI, I think I had announced that they were a finalist. So they have won a silver medal award for the Northeast section from Mass Econ, and then a special sort of recognition for their workforce training, workforce innovation program. The celebration for those various awards from whatever, I think there's 13 different organizations, companies that have been identified, is April 7th down at Gillette Stadium area. So I might end up going. I don't know if anybody is interested in going. I know both the city, and I see that Sal has joined us. The city has met with their PR consultants, and GMGI is also, promoting this award through their various channels, both for their own purpose, but also really to raise, again, the visibility for Gloucester and the Cape Ann area as an area where great things are happening in the life sciences and in workforce innovation. So I think it's all positive, and we're all trying to figure out how to leverage it beyond, just beyond GMGI, but the greater economic development story. Sal, anything you want to add to that?
No, sorry guys, I'm late. I attended a wake, but no, that's good. As Tom mentioned, the Benchmark Strategies PR firm that we retain for community development has been working on promoting this. It's a great story, and however we can use this award to encourage others to consider Gloucester is a really good thing. So glad to see them recognized.
The next bullet is, thank you, Sal. The next bullet is continued outreach to commercial property owners. And this is, again, trying to raise the visibility of life science potential, but certainly any economic development opportunity. We've got now a sort of a list of about 20 either property owners, developers, or brokers. Continue between Sal and I in touch with many of them. And again, just trying to either raise awareness or, keep the issue and the city and the EDIC's interest in economic development and bringing new sites online front of brain for these folks. So nothing to report yet, more specifically, but we continue to promote that. Next item, nothing really to report here. The Municipal Harbor Plan Committee that I sit on is finishing up the economic analysis, and that will be sort of available soon. As I've said in the past, it really paints a better picture of Gloucester and the fishing industry than many people have. That it continues to, while it's challenging times on a number of levels, it continues to be a vibrant fishing community in a lot of ways. Certainly brings in a minimum of $50 million in landings, and then there's the multiplier effect. But again, when compared to many other ports, it's a strong economic engine. It's still unclear to me, and I know the board will be looking to me to sort of figure out, is there a role for the EDIC in the broader development of the harbor or the maritime industry? And it's just not perfectly clear to me what that could be. Certainly one of the recommendations of the economist who's part of the consulting team, is that there needs to be an entity, and it could be entities, but clear definition of who's going to be responsible for implementing economic development and growth strategies. I think has pushed pretty hard, whether it's the creation of a new entity, whether it's more responsibility on SAL or the Community Development Office or EDIC, sort of remains to be seen. But I think the need to have somebody with an assigned role, responsibility, and accountability for the growth of the maritime industry is a strong message from the consulting team.
So when if I can ask a question, so what happens then? You get a recommendation, upon whose ears does it fall, and who has authority to decide, okay, it's this agency or this new entity we're going to form, or it's recombined, repurposed EDIC, or it's just more work for Sal, like what?
Well, most of it's probably more work for Sal, but ultimately this is still in the discussion phase, and ultimately this then goes to a draft municipal harbor plan, and then ultimately further public outreach and discussion before it could be finalized as a municipal harbor plan. And I think from my standpoint, it's important to have this plan, as concrete as possible. Sometimes these plans can be very sort of aspirational, rather than we're going to achieve the following in the next 5 years, where the goal is to add X number of jobs or grow the industry by 25%, or focus on, marine genomics, whatever it might be. I think what is important to me is that it be a real plan and as concrete as possible, rather than just sort of aspirational. And these sort of recommendations that just fall on almost no one.
So measurable and resourced, right? Or
yeah, I think so.
Some plan to, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, financial stuff. There's two things here. So one is that we signed an agreement with an auditing firm that was recommended by our previous auditing firm. The new firm is Roselli, Clark and Associates. And the agreement is that they would do our audits for the next 3 years at the same basic rate that has been charged in the past, which is $5,450 per year per audit. So given it's the same as it's been before, and they were recommended by the audit firm that we had been comfortable with in the past, I just went ahead and signed that agreement. I don't know if folks want to talk about that, or Ruth, if there's anything you want to add to that.
No, just that we all were prepared for this, because he told us last year, that was his last year. He recommended this new company. They had already agreed that they would take on his clients at the same rate. I've already started uploading material, so I'm not anticipating any glitches.
The other financial item is that we also have a invoice that we have received, have not paid, from Beaver Solutions LLC. This is basically their annual flow device maintenance plan for $350, where they'll come out it says regularly inspected. I think it's a couple times a year. That they'll come out, inspect, clean, make sure that the device and the leveler are working appropriately, and it's maintaining water flow. They have a note on the invoice: increasing pond sedimentation will require a flow device replacement in 2022 or 2023. I don't know truthfully whether that's sort of a standard cautionary item, or whether they've noticed that it's the sediment is getting heavier and fuller, and we should anticipate that.
It is, Tom. They would, before Bill left, he and I were supposed to go do a site visit with them, and they did notice that it is starting to fill in a little bit. So that would be something that they do. They'd work in conjunction with the DPW to dig out and rebuild that kind of area. So it is something we do need to pay attention to, but I'm sure they'll let us know when it gets, beyond just a quick fix and into that.
So you have an invoice, Tom?
I do have an invoice. Yep.
Just send it.
Yeah, it was forwarded to me by Lee. So we should have a motion to accept and pay this invoice, I think, right?
Yes. I move to authorize the payment of this invoice, and you're going to send it to me, correct, Tom?
I will.
Oh, second.
All in favor? Excellent.
What was the amount
I
of that
think
invoice?
I think
Pardon me.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Lee.
Pardon me. What was the amount?
$350.
Thank you.
I think our Beaver constituency is up in arms, though.
I've given him
They
your
don't vote.
contact. I've given him your contact information.
I know you give me you give all of your favorite detractors my email information.
I've said, look for the guy with the
I've noticed.
Cape Ann license plate and an Audi, and you can track him down. So new business. Review of the federal infrastructure bill. Energy is on there. So I did run through and take a look at that Jerry had sent along. And Sal, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. There are, I don't know the details, and I don't know whether we as a group or the city is either, can't imagine you have the bandwidth to really look at it, but to spend some time trying to figure out, what I've got from my notes from looking at it is there's, and this is the federal, billions for resiliency that could relate to the harbor. We've already heard about electric vehicle charging stations. funds for upgrading power system reliability, energy efficiency and conservation block grant program, water sewer money, FEMA flood mitigation monies. There's definitely a fair bit of money for ports. So, the question.
Yeah, Tom, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
When
no,
you're
no, I
done.
was gonna ask you is sort of what do you, or Jerry, what's the best way for us to systematically look at this and see whether there's some opportunities?
So, but you bring up really excellent points. So two things. Number one, Seth Moulton's team had a meeting with the mayor's office, I believe a couple of weeks ago on these issues. So I'm happy to connect with Jill to see what the results were of that meeting. The other thing is I could check with Greg Catamatori and his the Clean Energy Commission to see if they're involved in any aspect of it, or possibly just the planning department. As you know, they received an EDA grant for the flood barrier around the sewer treatment plant. And also the new administration has been actively pursuing avenues for whatever grant we could find towards a new wastewater treatment, secondary treatment facility. Lastly, the same organization that is helping us with public relations, Benchmark Strategies, is going to speak with me about this bill to talk about opportunities that could align with Gloucester free of charge. It's a separate division of the company, but they were willing to do, when I asked them, they were willing to do kind of a one-on-one to give us, not help us apply for anything, but just tell us, what could align with Gloucester and our needs. Obviously, if any of these projects come with matching requirements, that's where it could get a little tricky, because that would mean we would have to come up with a significant amount of money for a specific project. However, so those are three things that I'm happy to look into and get back to you on.
Okay. Is that fair?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that it's a moving target to a great extent. A lot of things were sort of put on DOE's plate that they haven't really moved on yet. So there's, Simplify and DOE are kind of around the same ballpark. But I'm really not sure how to address it. If somebody has the bandwidth, and Moulton's office might be the best bet on this. If somebody has the bandwidth to at least zero in on those things that look like they might be a fit just from reading the bill, that's a huge task all by itself. Or then we could pursue those, figure out which office of DOE, and they're being reorganized, by the way, so that's a whole new ballgame. But where to go for each of those and see what the status is. That's a huge task, though.
Right. Is Sal, is it your expectation that Benchmark is going to come back and you're going to, in your community development, meet with them? Or are they going to sort of send some sort of a report with some identified?
So I believe it would be a verbal, it would be a meeting, virtual meeting.
Okay. If you could, if it's acceptable to them, include us or some portion of us in that meeting, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I'll ask them.
Okay.
And
Should I
we'll figure out it.
With Jill about the meeting with Moulton's team, or will you do that?
I could do that. That's fine. I think that I could get an answer pretty quickly, and I'll get back to you.
Great.
The other thing, last thing on that, Tom, is sometimes something is in a federal bill and it trickles to the state level, and then they disperse it through a program operated by the state or one of their quasi-governmental organizations. And we have a very good relationship with the administration. And then we usually end up applying through that. So just like Jerry's explanation about so many things on DOE's plate, it doesn't surprise me, because when the pandemic hit, there were things announced about what the SBA was going to do before the SBA even knew about it. You know, my connections were like, oh, that's great that was announced. No one told us yet about that program. So it doesn't surprise me, but I'll get back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm certainly, I'm assuming that most of this stuff will ultimately come through the state and then ideally to us. Sal, as long as you've sort of got the podium, do you want to talk about the one-stop program as well?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. So those of you who may have remembered over the summer, last spring and summer, the city took part in a local rapid recovery plan, or LRRP. We were one of the, I believe, 125 communities that took part in the program. And basically what it meant was we had a dedicated consultant that helped the city identify 12 priorities for downtown, for the revitalization of downtown kind of post-COVID recovery. So we did an extensive amount of work, held stakeholder engagement meetings with businesses, with landlords, with cultural and nonprofit entities, and kind of came up with a punch list of things that they would like to see come out of the program. And the goal was that, you know, if the state saw similarities with 125 communities, they would take money that they were getting from the federal government to launch programs to help communities that were facing some of the same issues. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that we were asked to submit an expression of interest. And basically what the expression of interest means is that if you met a deadline, which we did, you were able to submit up to five projects for consideration to be funded. And what you would do with those five is a quick narrative. Literally, it was an online form with 1,000 character limit. So not 1,000 word, 1,000 characters. So they count the spaces. So yours truly did all these narratives, and then we had to cut them down massively. But the good news is that we submitted five, and it came right down to the wire. And the mayor wanted, things that were kind of beyond downtown submitted as well. So one of the things that we submitted was asking for financial support for 2 waterfront parcels on our working waterfront, one I-4C2 and one being 112 commercial, both owned by the city, but they need work, oftentimes seawall repair, maybe soil testing, just general work that's going to be expensive but needed, no matter what you're going to do with those parcels. The second thing is
how much money was asked for those?
I'm sorry?
How much money was asked for those?
I have to look into the total if we asked for a specific amount or if we asked just in general saying we needed help for those. I don't remember I don't think we put a dollar amount to it. We just said that here are the list of things that need to be done for those projects. So I worked with Greg on that The second thing is, we heard a lot from businesses on Condon Road about the condition of Condon Road itself, and also the lack of any kind of sidewalk for employees to walk on, lack of lighting. And there's, one company in particular that is potentially going to expand. And if we want to make this a friendly place to do business, little things like sidewalks and lighting, especially when it gets dark early and when there's snow, having people walk on the side of the road is something that you don't want, especially during the winter. So that we did ask for just over $1 million for, so it'd be repaving sidewalks, not in a traditional sense, but sidewalks that Mike Hale had a term for it, kind of like a raised area of a sidewalk, not a traditional one, because trucks might not be able to clear it if they were backing up, and then also lamps on the existing poles. So the goal is to see if we could get funding for that, to support those businesses there, and make it more pedestrian friendly for employees. There are several co-op employees that come, like students looking to get into the trades, and they're not driving. And so having them walk, it's somewhere, easy and safe, seemed like a really good thing to do. So those were the ones that definitely are in EDIC's purview. And then the other three, one included requests for a downtown management organization. Several businesses have said there's a lot of, the city does some, good things there in the chamber and nonprofits, but there needs to be an overall downtown management entity to support the growth of downtown moving forward in this kind of post-pandemic era that we're entering. Another one was a traffic and parking study for downtown. Almost every single business we talked to said that was an important issue. That's something that I think needs to be done professionally by an independent third party to move us kind of beyond anecdotes, and then promotion of vacant storefront support, and potentially along with that pop-up program to support retailers and create a path for entrepreneurship, especially for women or minority-owned businesses, that they might be doing something great at home, out of their home or online, and they want to experience something in a storefront. But as you know, a traditional commercial real estate lease, and Ruth knows better than anybody, a landlord's going to want, a significant commitment to when they're talking about a commercial lease, or they're going to want to see a track record of successful business. It's not like renting a one-bedroom apartment, so oftentimes these entrepreneurs, there's a block, but they can't get in. So this program would work with, some selected landlords and reducing some of those barriers by doing the paying for build out in advance, working with them to do more of a reduced rent and an easier lease. So those are some things that we asked for support. They weren't full grant applications. They weren't anything other than us asking the state, is this something that we could potentially get support on? And they're supposed to come back with 2 of those 5 and encourage us to apply for those. So that was submitted. So we're waiting to hear back from them.
Sounds great. Let's cross our
And at
fingers.
the appropriate time, if we do, move forward, I'd love to talk with everybody at EDIC and see if we could, put our heads together and put you know, the best case forward to get those funds for Gloucester. If it, you know, if it's something that makes sense to this board and aligns with the mission. All these things are in economic development. They're all needs that the city has, but there's never any money, you know, to do these things really. So it would be great to get any of these done. And there's like a domino effect, right? The traffic and parking study informs development downtown that will, you know, affect all these different things. Or when we do wayfinding and new signage, it's dependent on, so there's a lot of things that are dependent on one another to make it work.
Yep. Great. Anybody have questions of Sal?
When were you expecting feedback on that, Sal? Is there any committed decision timeframe?
I think we're supposed to get it within a couple weeks. There was another deadline that I think is next week if you were just to submit a project for feedback. So we got our 5 in, and you know, we're hopeful that we'll get 1 or 2 funded, and you know, go from there. So yeah, hopefully that will come soon, so we can make the fill out the full grant application.
Thank you. Any other new business?
It's not really new business, but especially with Sal's on the line, he might know more, but the Santander building sold the end of last week for 2.4 million. The way I understand it is it's a builder and he'll build out what he can for residential. Main Street still has to stay retail, but I thought it was pretty exciting news how much interest people have in Gloucester. And the CBS building is under contract. I don't know to who or for how much or what the intent is, but I think it's probably similar, looking to see what they can do for residential on the Rogers Street side.
Well, that's great news. Both great news.
Yep.
So when you say residential, it would be retail on the first floor and residential above, or not necessarily?
Well, yeah, residential above, retail on the Main Street side. On the
Right.
Rogers Street side is a little different.
Right, right.
I've heard what the same thing Ruth has said about Santander. I did not hear residential for CBS. But
I haven't either. I don't have any details on it, Sal, just know
Yeah.
that the contract.
yeah, so but you know, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I think it's no accident that so I called, I had another potential user for Santander, and the broker said he went a year without any serious interest to all of a sudden a bidding war. And I have to think that part of that is, you know, business confidence going up, and the fact that a lot of people worked really hard on the LRRP. There's a lot of buzz about what's happening downtown, and I think that's good for investment, because somebody who's going to put their hard-earned money into any project, if they feel like, you know, the city along with other entities are really pushing for, and you know, the municipal harbor plan, that there's action, there's stuff happening. I think it's a positive thing. So I also heard that Papa Gino's is going to be leased as well. So it'll be the trifecta. I'm sorry?
I hope it's a Panera. That was
So
the rumor 2 years ago.
you were what? I'm sorry?
I said that was the rumor 2 years ago, that it was Panera.
I heard it's
My daughter would be very happy.
yeah, I heard it's a different use, but I don't have all the details on it. However, the good news is that, you know, 3 major vacancies will be potentially filled with some active uses that hopefully they're all year-round type uses, instead of, you know, vacant buildings aren't good for anybody. And I know,
Exactly. And I mean, we need housing units. of all
Yep.
types, all across every demographic. And so that's a perfect development of Santander, residential above and then in the rear. Because they've got all that parking.
And I did hear that the broker said that the individual who bought it, that it's not going to be a huge development. Like they're not going to try to ram something down our throats and get, you know what I mean? Like it's not going to be overwhelming. It's going to be nice.
It'll be just,
So-
yeah.
And maybe they'll shovel the sidewalk on the Middle Street side. That'll be good.
Well, that's one of the reasons why you don't want vacant properties, right? It's hard to chase landlords down to get their job done, and finding them only goes so far. So I'm optimistic that
Yeah.
these will happen and add life to downtown that will help all the businesses in the area. And pre-pandemic, I had a couple of meetings with some downtown businesses at Wheelhouse Co-work, and many of them were very concerned about those vacancies, what would go in them. Like, let's say it was a check cashing or less than desirable use,
Yeah.
and then things spiral down, or people don't want to invest in areas where some, less than desirable retail tenants are, or vacant buildings are not good, for a variety of reasons. So all good news.
It is. I mean, the loss of the Y, the traffic that the Y created, foot traffic, I think was really felt by the folks on Main Street. So having a lot more residential use is going to make a big difference.
Yes, I agree. I mean, the retail will still be present. That Santander Bank building is a really big building. 3 floors, Main Street, and then the parking lot level, and then a level above.
That's great news. So let's hope that all 3 of those things, do happen. Thanks. Anybody else?
Just a quick, I don't know if anyone was part of the call. It was kind of near and dear to my heart. It was something that, let's see, I think Rockport Chamber and Gloucester, Cape Ann Chamber, and maybe another one, they sent out a survey about people who would be interested or
Yes,
are using the
yes.
J1 visas. Yeah, so we're looking for, staff to work, and I've used J1 visa students in the past and just stop really asking for them and hiring them because it's so hard to find summer housing in Cape Ann. Everything's kind of switched over to Airbnbs and more expensive uses. So they were working with Gordon. Is it Gordon or Endicott? Gordon College, I think.
Sounds right.
So Gordon College to house up to 150. And it looks like, because I have a friend that works at TAR's office, and he said it looks like it's going to go through. The people with the inter-exchange people said they haven't heard that it's going through yet, so they can't really open up Cape Ann to that. But I think just on a business development and just keeping us in business point, it's a great model for us to be able to have some temporary housing for some J1 students that's not cost prohibitive. And it helped. There was a lot. I think were you on the call, Ruth? I think there were about 40 businesses on the call, all looking. Yeah, they were all interested in it. I mean, it's kind of like every hotel, every restaurant, every seasonal business is always looking for some type of labor. And the J1 kids come over, they're here for about 5 months, which is, better than US college students because their season's a lot shorter. The J1 kids stay through September, which is pretty key for us. So just thought I'd let you guys know if that's in the works, possibly.
The chamber, I don't have the results in front of me. I should have remembered to do this ahead of time, but the chamber did another survey for businesses and asked them questions related to, is it housing, difficulty finding housing? Is that part of the reason why they can't find people to work for them? And it is a significant reason. People from outside of Cape Ann, traveling here to work. They'd love to live in Gloucester, but there's just not enough units. And it's not necessarily about our population growing. It's just businesses are hurting to get help for many reasons.
Yeah, I have two kids that moved up from Pennsylvania last year and they ended up at the Halyard, but again, they had to show that they made 50 grand a year each for me and then have one of their father's co-sign and he had to show that he made over 100,000. So that's $200,000 in proved income for a $2,400 apartment. It's crazy. It's great.
It is.
And just so you all know this, slightly more than 50% of Halyard are people from Gloucester. So don't believe the misrepresentations of information that are out there.
It's just attracting a bunch of out-of-town people.
Correct. I mean, it's not. I mean, yes, but there's another percentage of people whose most recent address was not Gloucester, but they were from Gloucester. But when I asked Halyard for this help, they were great. She said, we just don't have that number. We know how many are from Gloucester, but because the way they recorded the information, it was their last known address.
And I think I would suspect too that if you expanded it to Greater Cape Ann, right? I mean, I know a number of folks from Rockport that have moved over there.
I agree with Tom. I had wonderful neighbors. They were living in their house for 50 years. The wife passed away. They were like grandparents to my kids. And the husband moved to the Halyard Apartments, like it just, and he's happy about it. And that serves an important purpose. As Ruth mentioned earlier, all housing is needed. So if that relieves some of the pressure and allows some people to stay local, it's a really good thing.
What happened, Sal, is that I know 3 specific people who sold their houses and moved to Halyard, but they were having trouble. They needed to sell their house, or they needed to move out of their house because there wasn't a full bath on the first floor, those kinds of issues. And they were able to go to Halyard and sell their house, and that provided housing for someone else.
Right. All good. All right. Well, I like to end on a bunch of positive notes, so that's great. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? So in our next meeting, I believe, would be March 15th. And I'm hoping that we would be able to have it in person, in which case this guy would be here to present on brownfields, but obviously we won't know for a week or two, I guess, whether we're going to relax that standard or not. But anyways, March 15th, and then hopefully we'll also get some information from the mayor's office about new board members as well. So we'll see what happens there.
And if anyone needs a tutorial on the zoning amendments being proposed, just call me. Hear the truth.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and have a good night, and we'll see you next month. All right.
Thank you.
Adios.
Bye-bye.